And good afternoon, everybody. Good to see all faces again. It's been a while since we've met. I think it was back in March. So I've got some script to go through here to keep us above board. So if you just bear with me just for a minute, we'll be right. So welcome to this meeting of Barrow Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee. My name's Councillor Martin McCleavey, and I am Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. This is the first virtual Overview and Scrutiny Committee to be conducted by the Council, so please do bear with us. Officers and members have done some training on this, so hopefully it'll go through reasonably well this afternoon. May I first remind all of you of some of the domestic arrangements. It's important that all participants conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. Please put your mobile phone on silent. Participants must ensure their microphones are muted throughout the meeting. If you wish to speak, you must raise your hand via the raise hand facility in Zoom and only unmute your microphone when invited to speak. Please do not interrupt other speakers. Members are reminded that they should not have alternative communications lines open, i.e. other Skype chats. If members do lose connection to the meeting, we will adjourn for up to 10 minutes to assist them in reconnecting. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being broadcast live to the internet. The whole of the meeting will be recorded, except where there are confidential or exempt items. To vote on matters, I will ask committee admin to manage this process. At this point, members will be requested to unmute their microphones. After a brief pause, a mover and seconder will be requested and a roll call of members will be undertaken. Please reply with, I vote for, against, or abstain. Then remute your microphone. That's the formalities, everybody. So let's proceed with today's business. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. So I will hand over to committee admin to do a roll call of members and officers present at the meeting. Thank you.
Wendy McClure's got her hand up.
Can I make apologies for Councillor Worthington, please?
Yeah, so start the roll call. Councillor McCleavey.
Here.
Councillor Cassidy.
Here.
Councillor Husband.
Here.
Councillor McClure.
Here.
Councillor Robson.
Apologies, Councillor Mooney.
Councillor McEwen.
Present.
Councillor Morgan.
Here.
Councillor Gorn. Councillor Thompson.
Here.
So then this is Councillor Piddock, Worthington and Mooney.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, item 2 on the agenda is urgent items. To note any items which the Chairman considers to be an urgent nature, we've not had any of those. Item 3, delegations, to receive notice from members who may wish to move any delegated matter non-delegated and which will be decided by a majority of members present and voting at the meeting. We've had none of those. Number 4, admission of public and press, to consider whether public and press should be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the items on the agenda. Declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations of interest, please? No, thank you. Right. Item 6 is confirmation of the minutes. Obviously, we can't sign the minutes because we're all in different places, but that will be done at a point in time, I'm sure. Are we happy to accept the minutes of the last meeting?
Agreed.
Thank you. Public participation, we've had nothing for that. And item number 8, terms of reference, you'll find the terms of reference in your minutes and therefore noting. Okay, for decision today, we'll move on to that is item 9, overview and the Scrutiny Committee work plan. And I'll ask the Corporate Support Manager, John Penfold, to address that one, please.
Thank you. The remit of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is to investigate, scrutinise, monitor and oversee and comment on service delivery mechanisms, policy implementation or any other issue affecting the borough or its residents, provided they have previously considered by either the exec or the council. We are required to create a work programme to deliver this over the next year, and I'm asking members to raise issues that they would like the Scrutiny Committee to look at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John. Do you want those raising now, John, or do you want members to have a think about those and come back, or are members happy to submit ideas now? I do have a few, which I'm happy to read through, and they might sort of ring other people's memories for something. Which way do you want me to do that, John?
Now would be good, because then other members will have a chance to comment on them.
Okay, I'll do that. That's not a problem. So just bear with me. I have had a few, which you could probably understand. It's been a long time since we have met. So I'll go through them under each heading. COVID is the first one. Licensing's response to COVID shutdown, support to businesses and opening up. Overall Council's response to COVID. COVID destruction and discretionary grants, the operation of the grant scheme and responding to claimants, particularly in regard to customer service. COVID and lockdown and opening up, lessons learned, what went well, what went wrong. So that's all under one item. The second one is IT and the telephone system. IT systems, laptops and iPad updates and recalls. The telephone system, inability for members to contact officers and the inability for public to contact officers. And there's a question there, could a VIOP be installed? I'm assuming that's something to do with telephones. It's a bit out of my remit, that one. The third one is planning, to scrutinise the planning policy in regard to housing and sensitive development. Affordable housing definition to be clearer so that we have a price point to which to work towards in terms of what affordable means. Fourth one, 32 West. Effectiveness of 32 West, are they necessary? What is the overall cost of 32 West? And that's going into non-prompt communications with councillors, and I think that's saying things are released to the press and on social media before councillors have actually been informed. One of our favourites is street cleaning, more focus on back streets of Barrow and Dalton. Community recycling centres across the borough have disappeared. Could they be reintroduced? Can we see a cost benefit analysis, and are there considerations to bring back in-house similar to what Copeland have done? Community hubs, selection of priority locations, are they the correct ones? Rysdale has the highest health issues. Harcourt and Roosecourt have the highest number of vulnerable adults. Costings and staffings with specialist qualified staff. Are there duplications with other agencies, for example, Inspira and the Well Mental Health, etc., and the sustainability of those hubs? Staff promotions, how effective and timely is staff promotions? What are the timescales for staff moving from assistant to officer, etc.? Is this when they have completed their apprenticeships? And the last one I've been given here is about life leisure. Opening up of pitches. Stockport opened up almost a month ago. Why has Barrow not yet done so? So that's the list of items I've got. If that's prompting anybody, then please, now's your opportunity to jump in. Is that okay, John?
Yep.
So Councillor Morgan has a hand raised and Councillor Robson.
Bev?
Yeah, I've got an additional one, Martin, that's come as a request from the member training subgroup. And they're doing a piece of work around reporting in terms of outside bodies, spokespersons, and they've asked that before they do that, but prior to the council AGM, is there an opportunity to review and rationalise outside bodies and look at the effectiveness of outside bodies? Do they meet? Do we get an invitation? Do we attend? That kind of thing, and just rationalise it. So that's come from that.
Yeah, absolutely. We did see that. We did send it to myself and John, and hopefully, John, that one will go on the list. Please, thanks, Bev. Steve?
Thanks, Martin. I had one of my own, but in response to your list, it's evident that list is too long. You know, that's a huge
yep.
all of them. And I think we need to think about focus. So some of them are not. COVID might be the thing we should do first. That seems evident. Bev's suggestion ties in with the previous members' development work. So, and you mentioned street cleaner, I think, again, Martin, which we haven't rounded off yet. So I think some of the things on your list might be useful. Be very, very clear that we've got what we're already doing. Do things that complement what we've already done. If there's additions that are coming up, like Bev's example. So, you know, that for me, first thought was, oh my God, we oughtn't to be doing all of them. I hope we don't do all of them. And I think we really need to narrow that down sharply. And then now I'm going to add one in that's personal to my work as a councillor, obviously. It might be a very simple one. I have spoken to John about this briefly, and we might be able to resolve it in a much simpler way. But I've found a need to, I think there's a need for some clarity around the abandoned vehicles policy and procedure within the council, how that works. That's my personal experience as a member trying to deal with a constituent. We might be able to resolve that just in terms of, if I raise it later under performance, we may be able to just get a very simple couple of sides of A4 from the relevant officer saying, this is a procedure, this is a policy. What for me has been lacking is timeframes and clarity. So we might not, you know, that might not be an overview and scrutiny thing, but if I raise it now, we might be able to resolve it simply later. That was it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yes, I fully agree with you. It is a long list, and there's no way in this world we're going to be able to do all of those, maybe over a period of time. But we will sit down, we'll prioritise those with Frank and John Penfold, and hopefully for the next meeting, we'll come back with a prioritised list for the Scrutiny Committee to agree on. Bill, is Bill somewhere? Bill, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got and the first one is fly tipping. Now, the thing is, the pay for the. I think we should be looking at some, especially for the vulnerable people, COVID and what have you. At £10 to pick something up, it might not be a lot of money to you, and there are a lot of people out there. It's a hell of a lot of money. It's causing more fly tipping. What is the cost to the borough of coming and picking up fly tipping? So I think we should be looking at reducing it some way or giving it free. I mean, maybe not to all the borough, but to especially the people on benefits and stuff. That's just one point. The other one was rats. Hell of a lot. I mean, not two-legged ones. I'm talking rats. A lot of rats about at the moment, present. The garden just over the back from me, somebody moved and they came in and they ripped up a decking and they're all over the place. And I think other people in the borough over Walney, blah, blah, blah. And it's a lot of money to pay for these as well. So I think we should be looking at bringing back in a rat catcher somewhere. Just a couple of points, Martin. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Nobody else has got the hand up? No. John, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, you said regarding the work plan, work programme, that we'd take it away and bring it back to the next scrutiny committee. We do need to include it in the annual report that will be going to full council later this month. So we need to meet before then, and I suggest that we circulate it to other members of the committee and get their views on it.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll wait on you to set up a meeting then, John. Thank you.
Okay.
So have we anything else on the work programme? Oh, Steve?
Yeah, just in response to what Bill said about fly tipping, You know, I've mentioned abandoned cars. You know, we're doing cleaning. I think Bill's probably in a similar place. There's something about clarity of policy, your message, those kind of things. So it's just making me think. You know, without jumping the gun, we've never finished our street cleaning review. But one of the things where we were at with it, Martin, I know you were on it, Anita was on it, was that something about a lack of clarity in some of the information. I think that's a bit of a theme around those kind of environmental street care, those broader issues. So just to note that really, and perhaps we need to be conscious that there's several of them flying off at different angles, but they're all related to a department or thing.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Steve. Anita?
Just while we're on about fly tipping and it's something that has come to light a lot more, and I think obviously with good weather and everything, is the bins along the beach, by the beach. I don't think they're big enough. The bins that we've got, I don't think that they're big enough to be holding the amount of waste that people are leaving up on the beach. There's been a lot of issues with the bins along the beach, and I think one of the worst ones was Sandy Gap, by Sandy Gap, that one, and it was absolutely, there was loads and loads of dog poo bags, and obviously the bin was absolutely full, and people were just throwing the dog poo bags by the bin, you know. But I'm wondering if we can have a look at the level of, you know, the size of the bins as well.
Okay, thanks, Anita. Frank?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think certainly all the Walney councillors are aware of this issue, and it's been on my to-do list for quite some time. I'm able to report that I've spoken to Sam Plum about the prospect of obtaining bigger Seagull-proof bins and more of them. And I'm now liaising with the new Director for People and Place, Steph Corden. I've had a site visit with her, and Steph is getting stuck into this, and I think we are hoping to see some positive results fairly soon. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. And I assume that means with Ron Head and Rampside and places like that, because I've no doubt they have got very, very similar problems. So it needs to be across the piece. Just on that, Frank, you were looking into the benches and things like that. Where did we get to on that?
Okay, well, again, Chair, I can report that we had a meeting with John Penfold in committee room number 4. We had members of the Better Bigger Bank community group also in attendance, and John has agreed to do some work on it. We're going to do some press. We're going to remind everybody that a moratorium has been placed on the installation of fresh benches around the borough. John and Peter Buckley from Street Care told us that we don't actually have a policy on it, and they were going to go away and do some work on one. But that was before March 23. So I'm not quite clear where we are on that present, Chair, but we certainly have picked it up and progress is being made.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Is there anything else on the work programme that anybody wants to raise before we move on? No. Okay. So we'll have the meeting as soon as possible and we'll get that work programme out to you. Item 10, Overview and Scrutiny Committee Annual Report. John Penfold.
Thank you. So in the last year, the items that were on the work programme that we looked at were street cleansing, and that was to review the procedures in place with the street care team to deliver a higher standard of street cleanliness. This came to a halt because since the contract was taken out in 2017, there has been variation to the street cleansing schedule. And I think we need to address that, and I've already raised this with the contract manager from FCC, that we need to move back to the original schedule and then see if there's any scope for variation. So that work will be happening over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you, John. I would remind us all that Steve did do a cracking report on the street cleansing. I'm sure we've got it somewhere. But anything on the street cleansing, anybody? Steve?
And just to say, we never did finish that report. The
No.
revenue, we hadn't got to the end of, from my
No.
point, we were going to do a bit of a visual audit, and we lost the thread. Well, COVID stopped that.
Yeah.
And a process for cleansing. I think I never did do a report. I think there might be some small amount of written out, but it's really small. We never did a final report.
Do not. All right. Okay.
Well, John might want to speak, but I think we could do something, but it'd be what it was originally.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Anything else on street cleansing? John?
Martin? Yeah, what Steve was saying about doing the audit, that was where we moved on to the cleansing schedule, and we found out that the original cleansing schedule wasn't being used, which is why I think we need to get that back reinstated so that we actually know when the streets around the borough are supposed to be being cleaned, so that we could actually monitor whether they are being cleaned.
Yeah. Right, we're still on annual report here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to.
So the next item we did was revenues and benefits performance.
Yeah.
And that was reported.
That's right. That's right.
And what we agreed to do was go back to it in about 12 months' time, because clearly the move from Liberator at Lake House to the Forum to deliver the revenues and benefits service was more significant than was anticipated. So we're still sort of letting the dust settle. And I think we agreed another 12 months, and then we'll go back to see if there's been any improvement.
Okay. Brilliant. Are you wanting to go through the quarterly reviews? Oh, no, sorry, Steve, you've got your hand up.
I think we said, John's right, it's quite hard to keep the thread on Zoom, isn't it? Because you want to speak about the thing that went before. So just to finish the street cleansing thing, as far as I'm concerned, I agree with John completely about the schedule, but it's a piece of work that remains unfinished. How we decide to finish it is perhaps something we need to work out. From my perspective, as chair of that small working group, we never finished it, but I agree with John in his statement about the scheduling and that we need to do it in that context, but it still remains unfinished. In terms of revenues and benefits, that is what we finished. And I think, John, just to pick up what you're saying, I thought we said a report to ONS, 6 months, 12 months and 18 months from memory.
Yes, you did. Sorry, it is in the minutes yet.
12 and 18 is report to us on performance, us recognising that we're doing really well under difficult, but 3 reports over the next 18 months would be beneficial to just make sure we're not in slip.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Anything else, John?
We did a review on member training, and that was completed.
Yep.
And there was also a review on corporate parenting, which, excuse me, was started within scrutiny but moved out of scrutiny. And I'll ask Councillor Morgan to give us an update on that.
Okay, I'm happy to update on that. Where we were with corporate parenting was once the council plan was approved, we mapped all of the relevant actions from the council plan that would benefit children who are looked after, care leavers and foster carers. And the next stage was to as they're all high-level actions, the next stage was we approached the management team to map the service plan actions for that group. And that kind of happened round about the end of March, at which point we went into lockdown, and the service plans were put on hold for the, you know, for obvious reasons. Our teams were, you know, doing lots of other things. So it's still there. It's still an action to complete, but until the service plans have, from the teams have been completed, we can't continue. So we're just waiting. That's okay.
Thanks, Bev. John?
Yeah, that's fine, and that's what we did last year. So the next thing we need to do for the annual report is provide a work programme for the coming year.
Thank you, John. And by my paperwork, I think that is everything covered.
No, we've got 2 more items.
Have we?
Yeah, the actual report on street cleansing.
Yeah, sorry.
And the use of customer service data.
Right. Over to you then, John.
Right, so I think we've talked about the street cleansing review, and it does actually say what Steve has just said. I think looking at the suggestions for the work programme, fly tipping in the waste contract comes under street cleansing, as does litter bins. So I think as we're finishing off the street cleansing review, we should include those 2 items within that review.
I would agree with that, yeah. We've got Wendy McClure.
Hi, John. Is there any chance then we could add the return of the recycling bins included in that part?
The bring sites, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will discuss bring sites. Bring sites actually comes under waste collection. And waste collection has actually been handed over to the FCC Partnership Board, who are due to meet later this month. And I will put that on as an item on the agenda for that meeting.
Okay, it's just that with the loss of those within the borough, obviously people have been fly tipping more so as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that have affected the fly tipping. One was that the HWRC was closed for about a month. Under lockdown, there were a lot more people at home generating a lot more waste, and they had nowhere to take it. So there's quite a few things. Also, it was the start of the gardening season, and we had to suspend the green waste collection as well. So it was just bad timing, really. Fly tipping has gone down. Unfortunately, we did have a few incidents of arson that were related to fly tips and the recycling bins, but the police and the fire brigade have worked together with the council, and they've now got on top of that. So yeah, I think we do need to put recycling bring sites in place, and I'll put that on the agenda for the next partnership board meeting.
Thank you, John. Steve?
I know I keep going. I'm going to keep going at this. I'll be keep going on about it. Do you think we should put abandoned cars in with that, John? Being as it's the same department, it's street scene stuff, or do you think I should wait till the next agenda item?
I think we should sit down with the street care team and look at what their policies and procedures are regarding abandoned vehicles, because abandoned vehicles doesn't sit under the waste collection and street cleansing contract. They are cleared by a different organisation.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anything else on street cleansing before we move on? Have you anything to add, John?
No.
Okay. Agenda item, excuse me, 12, use of customer services data. Back to you, John.
Right, again, members of this committee last year asked us to provide customer service data. there's a couple of appendices which show the customer service data for 2019-20, and you should all have been sent a coloured amendment to table 3. Yeah, table 3. Did everybody receive a copy of that?
Yeah.
So what this information tells us is that during the year, there was 166 reports of dog fouling, and 148 of those were dealt with within the time in the council's policy, which is 89%. With fly tipping, there was 2,026 reports, of which 2013, 99% were actually dealt with within the 24 hours. And if you cast your mind back to the end of last year, that figure was around 7%. So definitely there's been a significant improvement in that. Missed containers, we had 1,432 requests for new containers, reported missed containers, of which 1,273 were collected within the period. With a missed container, if it's reported before 12 noon, FCC are contracted to collect it that day. If it's reported after 12, to collect it the following day. New containers, there were 3,355 requests for new containers, and 3,315 were delivered within 7 days, which is in the contract. Special collections, there was 8,182, of which 8,085 were collected in the right date. What happens is each area of the borough is given a collection day, and depending on when you order, if you order it the week before, it will be collected on that collection day. If we fail to collect it on that collection day, it will be reported as a missed collection. Allotment is less relevant. There was 317 requests, and of 317 were dealt with. That doesn't mean there were requests for new allotments. There could have been requests for removing rubbish or cutting the grass in the lanes and that sort of thing. There were 7 reported drug-related litter incidents. All 7 were collected within 24 hours. There was 225 abandoned vehicles reported, of which 223 were collected within this 1 week, I think, Steve, for collecting an abandoned vehicle. Animal carcasses, there were 38 reports and all 38 were collected. And there were 5 reported acts of vandalism. That tends to be more likely graffiti rather than smashed windows or whatever. And all 5 that they were dealt with within the appropriate timescale.
Okay, thank you, John. Steve, your question?
Abandoned vehicles now. You'll be sick of hearing about them by the time I'm finished, won't you? So on our website, it will be relatively clear the criteria for removal. Although I think it could be better. It doesn't cover all the stuff you can find on it, even .uk. You know, we miss 1 or 2 criteria off. So we don't go to pains to be really clear about our explanation. The unfortunate case I've got, it's not been a week, it's been 2 months since it was first reported by a resident. It's been a month since I first reported it. And my perspective is that there's a lack of clarity about when we can do it. We're just not certain enough. And small things confuse us about whether it fits into the criteria or not. Now, I know it is it's a guidance and it's not an absolute definition, but I think some of the conversations lead me to believe that there's a little lack of clarity. So how we address that is my question. And I do think we could be on a web page about it, and the information we give to members of the public about it could be better and clearer. much more specific about what you're looking for. This is what we'll do. This is what the timescales are. Because my personal experience in this case hasn't been very good.
Thanks, Steve. John?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you've said, Steve. And that's why I think we need to sit down with the manager of the street care team. Street care has now come under the remit of Public Protection Service. And I think we need to have a structured policy so that members, officers, and the public know what our arrangements are for removing abandoned vehicles, because they can be very, very dangerous. You know, they are targets for arson and that sort of thing.
Thank you, John. Bev?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to update on the new table and how it came about, and I wondered if, Katie, are you able to share it on the screen?
1 second, I'll just try and share it now.
What it does is it doesn't take account of all of the things that other councillors have said, like policy, procedure, ease of access, anything like that. So it doesn't take away from any of that. It is exactly the same data as the very last table in our report, table 3, final review. And it came about because we tend to focus on service failure. Our customer service data is all about service failure. And actually, our data tells us that we are not failing in most areas. So Brooke and I looked at it in a different way, to look at it in terms of service success. And that's what John has reported back to you today. This is if you're wondering why it looks different. And we came up with a really simple RAG rating, red, amber, green rating, so that if it was within a range of 0 to 5%, it was good. You know, if it was 5 to 10, it was amber. And if it was over 10%, it was red. And you can see from that, it's exactly the same data as before, but focusing on service success instead of service failure. And you can see from that, I know we've got problems with, you know, policy and procedure, but you can see from that it's relatively green. You know, it's that we ask, you know, based on what we get through the front door, it is successful. And the query really was on this is would you prefer, it's a choice for members really, would you prefer the data to come this way, or in terms of service failure as before, how would you like your data presented, really?
Okay, thanks, Bev. I mean, it does look a lot better like that. Green is always better to see than reds. So I think personally, my personal opinion, that's a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Steve and then Frank.
So, John, about is the abandoned vehicles permanently coming under public protection? Is that a permanent situation?
In the current situation, I don't think we can say anything is permanent. But it's currently where it sits, and I think if I arrange a virtual meeting between yourself and any other members that want to be involved with the public protection manager and another member of the street care team, then we should be able to find out exactly what the process and the policy are, and make sure that we have a procedure that's followed, and make sure that we give that information to the public and to members. Okay,
that's fine. I'm totally fine, and I agree with Bev's table. I prefer it to the old one. But as you rightly pointed out, Bev, it does. You know, when it's saying yes, that's successful. The problem with something like vehicles is, you can see I've got a beam on. The problem with something like abandoned vehicles is, if the answer is, oh no, I don't think that is one, then it's not a, then it's a success. We dealt with it successfully. The reality is it is one, and the lack of clarity lies in the definition. So we don't pick up our own failures by virtue of not having the clarity in our policy and procedure, which I know you know, Beth. But that's why it's important in the case. Some of them it's much simpler because it's a container, was it delivered or not? but in terms of a band of it seems to be a bit murky. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, 99% success rate is brilliant, and it's that 1%, just that one vehicle, that one person sees the failure, but they don't see the successes. But yeah, it's better the way Bev's put it there. Frank?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a quick question that John might be able to respond to. The final review table, who was the author? Who is the author of the final review table?
Final review table, sorry, where are we? Oh, it's Brooke.
Brooke was the author.
Yeah, Brooke.
Yeah,
Great, fine, thank you.
Well done, bro.
thank you.
Bill?
Quick one, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Beverly's chart that's just why and missed containers, or that should be on amber %.
Because they were greater than 10%. The keys at the top of the
Amber.
what Kate has just shown us on the screen. So the services dealt with on time were 89% for both of those. So the number of failures were 11%. So therefore it's above 10%, so it's red.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Any more on customer services data? No answer was the stern reply, so that looks good. Have you anything more to add, John?
No, I will set up some meetings very shortly, virtually obviously, and I'll inform members.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Steve's got a question.
Steve, no? Yeah.
So yourself, John, Martin, going to meet to look at that extensive list you read out, Martin, and pick work programme from that. At what stage do the rest of us get to say yeah or nay to that?
We'll pass. Sorry, John, go on.
Yeah, so when the chair, vice chair and myself will go through the items that have been recommended. We will prioritise them in a way that we think, and we will give reasons why we put that priority on them. We'll then circulate it to the other members of the committee and ask them to respond.
Right.
And it's probably worth noting that, yeah, it is an extensive list, but it doesn't mean to say the ones that are not prioritised on that list have disappeared. There will still be an element to be looked at in the future, but we just cannot do everything all at once.
Yeah, I know it's an extensive list, or it looks extensive, but I think quite a few of them could be grouped together. Like we've said, yes. That, you know, we can have litter bins and fly tipping with street caring. A lot of the response to COVID, I think, can be grouped together.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Steve.
I think that's my point, Martin, is the provision of a list isn't a work programme, and the fact that something becomes in a list doesn't mean it should be on the work programme. No. We need the committee to vote on what the work programme is, and all members have to have a say on it. Just the fact that you get a list doesn't make it the work programme. No. I know so some of those things on that list may never be in the work programme ever, because the committee doesn't vote for it. That's what we're clear about. We'll vote what that work programme is. Some of those things on that list, I don't think are worth want to be on the work programme personally. Other members might feel the same about other items. So for me, we just need to be really clear that we'll, as a committee, decide what that work programme is.
Yeah, as soon as the priority list put together, it'll go straight out to members for members to have their say on it, and that's obviously the correct way to do it. Anything else, John?
No, that's me.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda, everybody. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that was successful, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Good night, bye.